trickle down into one another. So when you look at the housing market right now, prices are going out the roof, like they're so high. And, people are pointing fingers, it's the politicians' fault, it's the Fed's fault, it's the real estate agents' fault, it's the appraisers' fault. But we're going to be talking with Malcolm Lawson. He's been on this show several times. And we're going to be discussing who we think is to blame and how it's going to fix itself. Not only that, we're going to be talking about a group of people that, during this whole thing with the housing, have been completely 100% ignored. And this is the people that are going to be the most highly affected by, first of all, stimulus checks, rent assistance, when it comes to mortgage forbearance, and any kind of things that are happening with any kind of shutdowns. It's like they don't even exist on the spreadsheets of anybody that's an economy an analyst or a housing analyst. It's like, well, these people are going to be fine, so they'll just scoop up the other ones. So we're going to be talking to Malcolm Lawson, getting his opinion on what he thinks is going to be happening with the housing market and this forgotten group of people that just seem to not be on anybody's spreadsheet. So without further ado, let's go ahead and add Malcolm Lawson. I should have some applause.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Malcolm Lawson.
High five.
I want to say real quick, though, Gabriella Mercedes Boulevard, thank you so much. It is a really great name. It sounds like royalty. I want to say thank you for becoming a channel member today. If you don't know, you can become a channel member. I have a private Discord for channel members. And as soon as it gets a little bit more people, we're going to be doing some private streams so we can talk more one-on-one. And the Discord is just a place where we can share pictures of our homes, talk to one another about what they feel about the housing crisis, anything you want to discuss when it comes to real estate. You get more of that one-on-one conversation with me and other channel members. So it's just a few bucks. It's just a couple bucks. So just if you're interested, you can go ahead and hit that join button. Hey, Malcolm.
Hey, how are you? Did I join? I think I should join.
Yes, absolutely. It'd be fun because that way you can get different real estate agents' perspectives.
I got a Discord account. I can log in there.
So I wanted to start off by saying that Congress is sitting there right now and they're discussing the bill that they say that by this evening, they're hoping by midnight tonight that that will help not only get the they're saying $600 instead of $1,200, $600 for individuals for stimulus, but they're also saying for people that are renting homes that they're going to give some kind of rental assistance. But this assistance is going to be for the landlords to turn in. So if you have a tenant that's been out of work that can't pay their rent, you would have to, as a investor or a landlord, write their name in, have them sign all the paperwork. They haven't ironed out. I haven't been able to read the bill, but this is the gist of it, that they'll be able to fill this out and get some rental assistance for those people that are behind on payments. It will not be retroactive though. So that kind of sucks. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, $600, it just that's not enough. That's $600 over 6 months. That's not gonna really have much of an impact at all. I mean, there's people who are literally unemployed for 6 months and have zero income coming in. What is $600 going to do? That's ridiculous.
The thing that I was looking at, what other than the $600 was with this rental assistance, is how many landlords are just saying, no, you know what? I'm not filling this out for you because it's up to the landlord. They're just going to kick them out and get somebody else that can pay it. Like how many people are going to become homeless because of this? I know plenty of landlords that are pretty decent people, but I also know a lot more that are really jerks and they don't care. And when this first moratorium came around about rent, they were fuming mad, unwilling to work with anybody, and they couldn't wait to kick them out. I know that soon as that moratorium was up, they were literally tacking up notices on people's windows and doors, and they could have cared less. They were not willing to help anybody. So this coming along, I don't know how many are willing to fill out the paperwork that are going to want to do that.
I'm at least happy that they're aware of this issue, that the landlords have really been hurting this entire time. I mean, this moratorium on foreclosures and rental evictions, that is probably what from the CARES Act, which is about March or so. So you have landlords who have not received any income at all for almost, 6-9 months now. God, it must really suck to be one of them right now, to have to make an entire mortgage payment without having any income coming in, and they can't do anything about it. They can't evict those tenants. They're just getting screwed over. That's rough.
And the CARES Act did not cover people that this was my second mortgage. So
right.
Oh, hold on. My kid decided she was going to print something at this moment. Yeah. Kristina says no. The CARES Act did not cover people that were have like a second mortgage on a rental unit. So we couldn't, like, when we called and asked about it, because we knew that our renters were not going to be able to pay rent at that time. They were like, you can't do that for this mortgage.
Wow.
You can't do deference on it. And I was like, okay. Like we had enough to cover it, but I was just, and I was asking about it just in case, but they're like, no, you can't do it for this particular mortgage. So some mortgage companies, if it is an investment property, will not allow you defer payments.
Yeah, what's crazy is that the individual mortgage companies weren't really adhering to the CARES Act how they were supposed to. A lot of them, that forbearance thing, they weren't doing it right, or they weren't properly advocating for the homeowners and really advising them of what the rights really are. And they weren't really doing that right. A lot of them were saying that you still have to catch up all your mortgage payments at the end of your 6 months or so, which isn't what the bill actually said. So there was a lot of, uproar about that Congress needs to actually enforce that CARES Act more strictly.
Well, they were doing those balloon payments.
Right. Yeah.
They were saying, well, now that 6 months up, now you owe us the balloon payment. I think that just like any lending institution, they're trying to squeeze as much money out of people as they can. And if they can get away with it, they're going to get away with it. We do have a question from Karen Richards. It says, I'm thinking about selling my house in the spring. Is this something you would recommend, or should I wait? I wouldn't wait. I would wait. And here's the reason why, Karen. The housing market right now is going up exponentially. Who knows when that's going to end? How long are they going to keep the interest rates low? If you're trying to time the market when you're going to make the most amount of money, it's almost like playing chess.
Yeah.
At some point you're going to have to make a move. If you wait too long, then you missed, when the dip happens, how much of a dip you're going to take within a week. Because I know, like in 2007, 2008, when everything started going down, I mean, it was going down $10,000 a day in Florida. Like, wow. It was ridiculous. My house was up at like 285. And when I put it on the market, I put it at 275 and I sold it for 235 and I only had the house up for sale for 6 weeks. But that's how quickly the prices were coming down. I don't have a crystal ball. If I did, I swear I would tell you. But if it was me and I had the opportunity to move now and, find another place easily, I would definitely put your house on the market now. You'll be able to, first of all, get a lot of people that are very interested, because most real estate agents have a backlog of buyers that are looking to find a house, and you'll probably have multiple offers that come in on it. And secondly of all, when you go to purchase your next house, you have a nice little nest egg to put on it, and you'll have a low interest loan. So it's a good time. That's my advice. What do you say?
Yeah, I say don't try to time the market. That's my advice in any market. It is virtually impossible to try to buy at the bottom and sell at the top. So if it's ready for you and your family to sell, then yeah, I would go ahead and sell. And yeah, I think springtime, even before springtime, is a good time to sell. I think personally, in my opinion, that this bull run, this spike in prices, yeah.
I think you're, I don't know if it's my earphones or your microphone. Because somebody tell me if everybody's hearing Malcolm okay?
You guys hear me?
It could be my earphones though.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Sure. You can continue talking, and if somebody puts it in the chat,
yeah. So right, home prices have gone up 16% in the last 12 months, according to National Association of Realtors. I think that run is going to come to an end once we get this virus under control, and once sellers feel comfortable to actually put their homes on the market. But that's a big stimulus of it, is that a lot of sellers don't feel comfortable putting their home up in the market, having strangers walk through their homes. So once we get this virus under control, that's going to come to an end. So it's kind of like best case scenario. If this vaccines work, best case scenario, maybe spring, summertime, everybody who didn't sell in 2020 is probably going to put their home on the market in 2021. But the thing is, like, we don't know. You know, I've heard you were telling me before there's some news of a new strain of this virus that's out there, you know, and who knows if we have logistical challenges getting this vaccine to everybody. I saw one poll saying that 40% of Americans don't want to take the vaccine. So if all these things happen and this pandemic gets stretched on for another 12 months, then it's hard to say when this bull run is going to stop. But home prices are going to keep going up until we get this virus under control. That's I said the P and the V word.
Yeah, you did. Irrelevant at this point. I don't care. It is what it is. But they're saying that it's going to go up about 4% next year. Do you think?
What will the home prices?
Yeah.
It's very possible. I mean, you know, if the interest rates keep falling, then that demand is going to stay strong. And the Fed just a couple of days ago said they're going to keep interest rates low until 2023, 2024. So I think that demand is going to stay strong. And if this virus continues, then supply is going to stay low. Mm-hmm. So, you know, so much of it is dependent on this virus and how well we handle it and get this vaccine out there. And if we screw this up, then who knows?
Well, one of the things that was causing a problem too is that new home construction was a problem.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a lot of new construction this year, but it seems that the supply chain has now corrected itself and new home builders are able to get those supplies. And I'm going to think that the market might end up flooding a little bit more with new home construction because existing homes are so difficult to find right now. And if we get a flood of market of new construction, then that will balance out the market quite a bit. What made this go up so incredibly high is that new home builders were crippled. They could not get the supplies that they needed. And now it seems like they're starting to get all those and they are working overtime to get those houses built because they want to make money.
Right. Yeah, that's actually a great point. I mean, right now we have a huge demand and very low supply. So if those builders can reduce the demand by somewhat, that will impact the prices.
They're saying that we have an echo loop. Do you happen to have earphones that you could put in?
Let me try. How about if I turn my volume way down on my computer? I don't have any earphones close to me.
Figures. It's okay. We're gonna try it. We're gonna work through it.
All right. I turned the volume way down on my computer.
Okay. No one really needs to hear me anyway. So one of the things that I have been like passionate about is I feel like when you look at a lot of these blog posts and things that people have been saying about the economy and housing, they're not addressing people that live in like more alternative homes, like manufactured homes and manufactured home parks, people that are almost near the poverty line. And they're living in like 1-bedroom apartments and everything. The people that live in manufactured homes, and I know that you shared this with me as well, is that a lot of times they live in a park and they couldn't use the rent moratorium to not pay their manufactured home rent. And they also couldn't use the mortgage moratorium or mortgage forbearance on their chattel loans. Those are the same people that were the most affected by job loss. So what's going to happen to those? What in the world is going to happen to those people? And I see it as investors are just going to come in and just say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and scoop up all these manufactured homes and rent them out. You know, I don't feel like nobody cares and they're not helping these people. What are we doing for these people?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's really impacted the people who make the lowest amount of money in our society. You know, a lot of the white collar people, right? Real estate agents, bankers, lawyers, they could just work from home. So a lot of people have the good paying jobs. They can literally just work from home. A lot of the people with the lower paying jobs, so like cashiers and bartenders and waitresses and construction workers and all the blue collar workers, they can't just work from home. So they either just lost their jobs or they're forced to go into work. And so a lot of those people are also the ones that don't benefit nearly as much from all the different programs. So like you said, if a mobile home, if they consider that personal property rather than real estate, then the mortgage forbearance and all those different programs, they don't apply to those folks. So yeah, it really is rough. And those people are more likely to be renters than they are homeowners as well. So the 16% in appreciation that everybody's seeing on their homes, those people who are impacted the most by this virus are not benefiting from that appreciation. So yeah, they're really getting screwed over.
Some of them have gained. They've gained some, but not 16%. I just feel like, when the Congress looks at all this paperwork and these numbers in front of them and who's being affected, they forget about a lot of people because they don't live that life,
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And when you look at, like, I was reading a blog post from an economist, and she was talking about people that rent condos, everything else, and nowhere on the sheet, nowhere was there anything about people that lived in manufactured homes that rent lots. Not anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is a good portion of people that are not working. They're not working, or they're down to one income and they're barely making it. And you've only given them $1,200 and you're going to throw them another $600. How is that going to help them?
Right.
They're
Yeah.
behind.
What is $600 going to do? If somebody's 6 months behind on rent, $600 isn't going to do anything. They're 6 months behind on their mortgage. $600 isn't going to do anything. That may pay for a moving truck to move them out of their home. Like, that's about it.
This is an interesting comment. Okay. He says you need more socialism to help people who make enough money or increase their pay and education. We were off the air. We were just talking about this, and I know we're talking about housing, but it all ties in, because in order for someone to afford a house, they have to have the right proper education, because the average American right now, a family of four, makes about $68,000 a year. The average home price is $228,000. They can't afford with their income a $228,000 house. But in order for them to get ahead, they would need an education. But guess what? An education costs $33,000 a year.
Yeah.
A year. So I just think that we have to come up with a better plan to help people get, because what moves the economy are people that are buying new homes. And in order to get into that market, they're going to either have to come up with better alternative housing products for people to purchase with a traditional home loan, or they're going to have to come up with better programs for education and everything else so people can get ahead in this society. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. And so, like, another challenge is that I think people are buying homes later on in their lives as well. So, right. So a lot of the people really impacted by this virus are the lower income earners. So a lot of those people are in those entry level positions. And so if they're living off their savings right now, that means that somebody, instead of buying a home now when they're 25, they may not buy a home until they're 30 or so. And that can really impact, over their lifetime, how much money they save up and where they end up, in the end, and when they retire. We're also seeing an increase in people moving out of their homes, moving out of their rentals, and moving back in with their parents, or multiple families cohabitating. And that's going to impact, when those parents can ultimately retire and how much money those parents have to retire, and when they sell their house to downsize. So it all is all tied in. It's a very delicate ecosystem that's completely blown up right now. It's like we have multiple invasive species in our economy right now, just screwing everything up. And we're really going to feel the impact of this virus for years to come in our young people as well as in our old people.
There was an article that was coming out recently. It was like maybe about 3 weeks ago, but it talked about the increase of people purchasing tiny homes. And they're analyzing that. So like you said, there's so many people coming back home, and whether they're an elderly parent but a lot of them are kids that, they don't want to live in their parents' house, but they have to come back home because they can't afford their student loans and everything else and find the job that they need right now. So a lot of families are opting to buy these tiny homes in places in California. They have reduced the restrictions so you can put them like basically in your driveway. Because they know that they have such it's so expensive to live there, and there isn't a lot of land that they can build on. So they have been allowing tiny homes on their properties. And I see that becoming a thing. Now, my envisionment, I think this would be fantastic for many people starting off, is if they made like tiny home subdivisions for people that were, just starting off. It would be bigger than an apartment. It would be your own. You would own a little piece of America. That's the whole way you build wealth to begin with. Anyways, real estate always tends to go up. We always have dips, but it never just goes to zero. So I think that would be a fantastic way for someone starting off to start to build some wealth, to get a little tiny house where you're not paying rent. You're basically paying for an investment. And then you could move on from there. That's what they did after World War II. They made these little houses.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, after World War II, they created the GI Bill and had millions of veterans moving into these communities, and they were building out entire communities with these pretty small houses, actually, for 1950s. And yeah, you have tons of communities that were being built out, and we're going to need something like that. We do have a housing crisis going on, and not to get political, but Joe Biden, in his housing plan, he calls for he wants to increase the construction of affordable housing. All the new construction communities out there right now, the houses are selling for $500,000, $600,000. There aren't any new construction communities selling houses for $100,000, $150,000 because they're just not as profitable. Building a little 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house isn't as profitable as building a $600,000 McMansion.
But how is it that a builder would be incentivized to even do something like that? Like, I mean, if I was a builder and they're like, here, you can build this little tiny house and you would make $6,000, or you can buy or you build a McMansion and make $60,000, I would be like, I'm sorry, kid, forget it. I'm building this huge house.
Especially,
I wouldn't want to work that hard to get that much when you can make this much. I don't blame the builders for that. They would have to incentivize some kind of government program to incentivize builders to even do something like this.
Yeah, it's all about incentives, and especially if that $100,000 house costs the same amount to get all the permits and regulations and inspections as it does for that $600,000 house. And there needs to be incentives there. They need to lower the prices or somehow incentivize the builders to build these more affordable homes. And I love your Boxable videos that you do. Like that, that could be a great solution right there.
Yep. There's a lot of comments coming through. I was just kind of sifting through them. My whole thing is that blows my mind is that they keep saying that we're going to be fine in 2021. And when I look at everything, and I'm like, how is it going to be fine when we can't even pass a simple stimulus bill?
Right.
I just don't see it at the end of the fourth quarter in 2021 that everything is just fine and dandy and roses. I just can't see it. Are you seeing something different? Am I missing something in the big picture of what these economists are saying?
I think a lot of them really focus on the stock market, right? That's what Trump's big focus is on. He's always been talking about the stock market. And it's a much easier visualization and easier for people to comprehend. Chart goes up and down, and the politicians, their whole goal is just to keep that chart green and keep the stock market going, and thinking that, well, that's helping their 401ks and other people's 401ks. The housing market is much more tricky. There isn't a daily chart that you can track, and you can't really track. They don't really track, the number of people that are being foreclosed on and evictions and everything. There's no daily chart that people look at every day. So it's kind of, brush under the rug. And it's just not as visual as the stock market. So when they say the economy is going to be fine, all they're really talking about is the stock market, about the Federal Reserve printing trillions of dollars and just buying these securities and bonds in order to inflate the stock market. That's what they focus on.
Junk securities. But even the people that are like supposed housing experts, I was reading this one girl's blog, and she's been right every year for the last 15 years, and she's been a real estate agent for 35 years, and she says everything looks rosy all the way through 2021. She said we will not feel the effects of this until 2023. And I'm like, how is that possible? Like, what are you seeing? I mean, she clarified, what she was saying, but I just don't get how she feels that this is just like the impact of this isn't so immediate because people are out of work right now. There's people that have
Right.
closed their restaurants because they can't get people in the restaurant. That's what made them money, is people coming in. They were doing takeout service. They don't have as much wait staff. Some of those wait staff haven't been able to get jobs. They were able to get that PPE loan, but it only lasted for so long. And now they have nothing. So they're going to have to shut down their business. And now they have no income coming in. So they're probably going to lose their home.
And all their employees are fired.
And all their employees are out of work, and people are having a hard time finding jobs right now because they keep shutting down cities. So how are these people not going to lose their houses? And how is this not going to affect people in 2021? I don't see how they see it. Right. I just want somebody to tell me how.
Right. Well, so when she says that we're not going to feel the impact of it, you have to ask her, like, who do you mean by we? If she's a real estate agent for 35 years and has a blog, she's probably doing pretty well. If she means the upper middle class is not going to feel the impact of this, maybe not. The upper middle class, they probably own more expensive real estate. So when they see a 16% appreciation in their home's value, that's a bigger chunk of change than people in the middle class and the lower income brackets. People are feeling this right now. They're absolutely feeling the impact of this right now. Like it's not going to be a delayed thing.
If you guys have a question, let me go ahead and put this in here. If you have a question, just go ahead and put in there question, and then we'll answer it. You just like make a big capital letters questions, because the chat does move fast and it's hard for me to review the comments one by one. I honestly, they didn't really mention anything on the new bill that's coming out when it refers to the mortgage forbearance, if they're going to do anything extra for people that have mortgages. I'm interested to see what comes out. Apparently it's 600 pages. And my main focus is on the actual, how much of the stimulus check is going to go out for especially people under $75,000, and how much is going to go for renters and what they're doing for renters. But the last thing I said or heard was that they are basically leaving this to the landlords. What do you think?
Crazy. That sucks. You know what? I mean, one good thing though is that a lot of people, the studies I've read, a lot of people have equity in their homes right now. That is a positive, and a lot of people could save money by refinancing their mortgages right now. Even the landlords, I think, could benefit from refinancing the mortgages. Although, if they refinance a mortgage, the mortgage company probably wants to see that you have steady income coming in for that rental property for 6 months. And if you show them, hey, we haven't had any income for 6 months, you may not be able to refinance a home loan on a rental property like that right now.
This is a comment I want to address. It says Florida, Texas, and Tennessee are doing fine. Well, there's two states that I do know a little bit about, and one of them is Florida. So the mortgage forbearance and rental moratoriums, all that stuff ended, and they evicted people.
Right.
And they have been putting foreclosure signs or notices on people's doors. They do not care. You may not see it right now because the bank is holding onto the property and haven't kicked them out. It does take a process. It's months and months and months before, if you get a foreclosure, it's not like, oh, they put the sign on the door and then you're out the door. It takes months for all that to happen. Yeah. So you may not be seeing it right this very second, but it's happening in Florida. And as far as Texas is concerned, I had Jeremy Knight on here. He's a real estate agent out in Austin, Texas. He made a very valid point, which I didn't think about, which was the fact that, well, a lot of people took the forbearance, but your escrow also pays your property taxes. And so if you haven't paid your property taxes by the end of the year, and what was missing from your escrow account, what's going to happen? What if you don't have the money to pay your taxes, your property taxes? Again, that's going to be a lien on your house because you haven't paid your property taxes. It's another thing that's going to be a problem that people just, you don't even think about it until you're in it. And I,
Right.
like when Jeremy brought that up, I'm like, how did I not even think of that? Because they're foregoing the payment. So that's also, they're foregoing the escrow that would have gone in for their property taxes and insurance.
And I've seen some states propose that if somebody files for a moratorium on their mortgage payment, that the state also does something for the property taxes. But that's on a state-by-state basis. And like you said, Florida, so there's federal moratoriums on foreclosures on VA and FHA loan, and I think USDA loans. But for a conventional loan, Florida and a lot of states had moratoriums specifically just for those conventional loans, and Florida's let those pass. So yeah, they are foreclosing. Maryland luckily still has that moratorium on all loans across the board. They say that's going to go until we're out of the state of emergency in Maryland. So that could be next summer sometime if this vaccine works out pretty well.
Now, in Maryland, did they do a moratorium on people that had chattel loans or those type of, like, do you know anything if they did anything for people that live in manufactured home parks?
I don't know. I don't know anything about that.
So
a manufactured home. So that's, are a lot of those, are they considered personal property, or like what kind of loans are those? Are those?
They're called chattel loans. I don't know why it's not considered predatory lending. They're usually very high interest, even if your credit score is pretty good, because of the amount that you're borrowing is like less than, let's just say $65,000. So they put a high interest on there because they say they're taking on so much risk by having you purchase one of their homes. And so that's why and they only pay, like, I think the longest you can even do it is 20 years. So let's just say you have $115,000, you're renting the land underneath it. Those lot rents can go up in price at any time because they're not bound to anything. And then your chattel loan is on top of that for 20 years. And so.
Yeah, I know a lot of the programs don't apply to people living in mobile homes.
All right, here we got another one here. Am the man. Would you buy now with 300,000 in savings, 6-figure salary, 830 credit score if you would just sold or wait for a pullback? What would you do?
I would, yes.
I would buy. The interest
I would buy. So again, you're talking about, should you try to time the market? Here's the thing though. What if they screw up the rollout of this vaccine and this stuff goes on for another 12 months and homes appreciate another 16% in the next 12 months? You're missing out on that. I mean, you're trying to time the market and kind of gambling. You're essentially selling at the top of market and you're buying at the top of market, but you're still benefiting from the fact that when you buy that new loan, it's probably going to be at a much lower interest rate than your old loan. So you're still benefiting, because typically if you refinance a home, you have to pay, $8,000 to $10,000 to refinance it. So you're kind of saving that. But yeah, I don't really advocate for trying to time the market like that. The saying is time in the market is better than timing the market, because we don't really know when there is going to be a pullback, whether it's going to be 6 months from now, 12 months, 18, 24 months. It's very hard to predict. So I would say just go ahead and buy right now.
The interest rates are so good.
They're amazing. It's crazy. Have you refinanced any of your mortgages yet?
We were going to do our investment property. I don't know what Eddie decided to do with that. That's on him, because once I fixed it up, I'm like, that's on you. So I don't know what we did. DJ says, doesn't the lender have a vested interest in paying your property taxes? They do. And a lot of the times, like whenever everything hit the fan years ago, in 2008 and everything, they did a home restructuring loan. They restructured your loan, but it still didn't help your escrows. So sometimes they worked with that, and sometimes they didn't. The thing is, there's so many unknown things. It's like, we've never faced this before. We've never had people that, like this kind of situation that happened in our economy, that so many people were forced into unemployment. It wasn't like, it wasn't like a natural, decline in the economy. It was, this is happening right now, and we're shutting everything down right now. It wasn't anything that anybody could have planned for, and even the banks couldn't plan for it. So everybody's trying to figure out what they're going to do right now. I don't know what Texas has come up with as far as the top property taxes. I don't know what any state has come up with. here in Louisiana, we haven't had that many people that went into forbearance, luckily. So it'll be interesting to find out. As soon as I find out something or some bank has made some kind of blog post about it, trust me, I will be the first one to talk about it. And one more question really quick. I love this one. How accurate is Zillow on house prices?
Not very. Not very. I would say if it's in a community with a lot of very similar homes and all the homes are identical, it's going to be much more accurate than if a home is kind of off by itself or very unique. Like essentially what they're doing is figuring out like the average price per square foot for a zip code and then multiplying that by your taxable square footage on your property. But there's so much that they just can't take into effect or into account. Like they don't know. The best way to use Zillow to figure out your home's price is that you can filter the listings on there by recently sold, and you look at homes that have recently sold and you find 3 of them that are very similar to yours and average those 3 prices together. And that's kind of a good ballpark figure of how much your home is worth using Zillow.
I always say like Zillow is like, oops, I made the wrong background there.
What happened?
I know, right? Zillow to me is like, they should call it a guesstimate instead of a zestimate.
Right.
They've gotten sued a few times for using this zestimate because people were like, well, it said it was supposed to be this much and everything. So yeah, the zestimate is just that. It's a computer algorithm. They don't put into account for any kind of upgrades that have been done to a home. They don't know how much things have changed. They don't know if you have a swimming pool in the backyard. They're just giving you an average price per square foot in that area. Oh, now Malcolm disappeared.
Yeah, can you see me? What's going on here? My computer, I can hear you, but my screen like froze.
Let's see here. I'm gonna
refresh it.
That's so funny. Here we go.
Oh no, my whole computer froze.
Let's see here. Oh, Nick, I hope I'm saying your name right. Nick Scalise is a commercial real estate in New York has began collapsing. I did read that article that in New York City, they have like a surplus for the first time and actually a reduction in rent a cost in the city because there's so many people that are leaving the city due to, of course, that they're working from home. Secondly of all, because, they don't want to live in the city anymore. They want to go somewhere that's a little less expensive. So I did hear that there's a lot of vacancies. My brother lives in Roosevelt Island and near Manhattan. And he said, you can walk down the streets and you can see lots of vacancies coming through. And I just don't think that we're seeing the full effects of what is going on right this very minute. And until it personally affects us, then all of a sudden then it will become something that people will be like, oh, this was bad. I wish I would have known. That's why we're talking about it now. Am the man. I'm living with my parents. My mom has cancer. Work with family. Don't want to close on a house in mid-pandemic. I don't even know when it's going to stop. I mean, they're saying that like we'll see the effects of if enough people get vaccinated, that we should see, the pandemic kind of coming down in the midsummer months, starting in the spring. That would be lovely because the numbers are off the roof. But the housing prices are high, no doubt about it. But the interest rates are so low. And I still think there's some deals to be had out there. You just have to be patient. I think we found Malcolm again. I don't know. Let's see if he's
Hey.
Hey. You came back. Yay.
My computer froze for some reason, but I got to back it up and running.
Oh, yay. Well, hey, it happens to the best of us. Oops. Hold on. Delete background. Oh, see, I'm trying to be clever here. See, now doesn't that look more fancy? All right. So Nick is a I'm saying it wrong. Sakalis is a real estate agent in New York City, and he was saying that the rental properties have increased in the city, and that they're starting to see that now. What do you see in your area as far as rentals?
Interesting. I know in New York City, the articles I've been reading is that a lot of people are moving out of New York City and moving into the more rural areas just because so many people have been just working from home. A lot of big companies have been saying, like Twitter said that all their employees who can work from home, they can now permanently work from home. And a lot of other companies are doing that. So I know at New York City, supposedly there's a big movement of people away from the city like that. We haven't really seen an increase in rentals here that I know about. I don't really work with renters, but I haven't seen like an increase in people asking me for rentals. So as far as I know, we haven't really seen a big increase in rentals here. Are you seeing that in your market?
We have, in my personal, we have more people that have, left the, the rentals, but it will come back. It always it always happens in December for some reason, always right before Christmas. And we get it rented out usually like right on Christmas Day or right afterwards.
Yeah, I will say, so I own a rental property and I got a new tenant in there about 2 months ago, and we had tons of people asking me about it. I eventually had to shut it down because I was talking to like 14 different people asking me about this rental property. So the demand for rentals was still very high. We had no problem finding a tenant for our rental just a few months ago.
Wayne says both you two recommending buying a home now in response to a previous question, but earlier said both said things that are not getting better in 2021. Contradictions. Okay, let me explain myself. If you have the money and you have the ability and you're not in a destitute situation where you are one paycheck away from everything once again, and you've drained out your 401k and you have no savings and you're begging for this stimulus check, no, don't buy a freaking house. That's like the last thing on your list. You're trying to save yourself. If there even is a question that you might lose your job, don't buy a house because you might lose your house. But if you have a hefty savings, if you are financially secure enough, you have your 401k, you have a nest egg to fall on afterwards if you were to lose your job, that you have a savings that you could live off of it for a good 6 to 7 months, you're fine. Go ahead and purchase a house. And I don't know how you feel about that.
Right.
I
Yeah.
wasn't talking out both sides of my mouth. I'm trying to give good advice.
It is tricky because we say like it's not a good market, it's not a healthy market. And what we're really talking about is we're seeing those people a lot of people struggling. First-time home buyers are struggling to get into homes. Homes are becoming more and more unaffordable for the buyers that we work with. And I work with a lot of home buyers. I work with more buyers than I do sellers. And for them, it's becoming it's too expensive for them. So for them, they're really hurting right now. And as far as if you want to buy a house, where do I think home prices are going to go? I think they're going to keep going up for the winter time. For at least the winter, I am very confident until at least springtime, home prices are going to keep going up until at least May, June timeframe. And if we don't have this virus under control by then, they're going to keep going up. If we do, then we're going to see a major correction. At some point, I do feel like we are going to see a major correction, and we don't know when that's going to be. That could be in the spring, it could be summer, it could be next fall. It's really hard to say. It's going to come, but by trying to time the market and wait for that dip, you may miss out on a lot of appreciation and a lot of gains in your value as well. And I think when I say there's going to be a market correction, a market crash, I don't think we're ever going to go back to 2019 home values. I think that we're going to go up a lot, and we're going to have a pullback, but we're not going to go all the way back to where we were last year or even before that. That's just my personal feeling on what the correction will be.
I think we're going to stay flat for a little bit for, a good period of time. And then once all these people are still struggling to get on top and these forbearance payments, some of them that have balloon ones come due, we're going to see a lot of, I don't know how long the banks will hold on to them. The people that, went into forbearance that are in pre-foreclosure and foreclosure. I don't know how long they'll hold on to them. They held on to several for many years in 2007, 8, and 9 because they didn't want to flood the market with foreclosures. And even then, it did feel like the market was flooded with them because you'd see it almost in every neighborhood.
Yeah, and you bring up an interesting point about the new construction. It's totally possible that once they get those supply chains figured out and they're up and running, they may build too many houses. They may have an excess in inventory for new construction. We saw that in 2008, that they had tons of brand new communities with nobody living in them. So that very well could happen as well. We could have too much supply and not enough demand for those properties.
Yep. What would be 3 upgrades to make in a recent home purchase to increase current and future increased value? Kitchen,
Kitchen.
master bathroom, master bedroom.
Yep.
Kitchens, bathrooms, master bedroom.
I agree with that.
Everybody always goes to the kitchen first. You
Yep.
get the most money back from your kitchens and bathrooms.
And I will say that getting your house completely painted and getting new carpet or new flooring in there is relatively cheap. That's not expensive. You can get an entire house painted for $3,000-$4,000, and I think that you can see a pretty good return on that investment when you do go to sell a house.
It's amazing what a coat of paint.
Yeah.
I always say a coat of paint covers a multitude of sins. A coat of paint, and we have this rental property, and every renter always ruins the carpet. We just get the one off the roll, and every time we put in the new carpet, it looks like a brand new house again.
Yeah,
just to have that inexpensive carpet to put in there.
So much of buying a house is like emotion and how a house feels, and just having clean carpet and fresh coat of paint just makes a house feel much nicer.
This is hold on. Are you seeing New Yorkers relocating to your parts? I know in Texas, they see California and they see New Yorkers, and in Florida, they're seeing New Yorkers down in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, that area. It's they're moving. They are moving.
Yeah.
And they run a lot of condos in Florida, which
if you lived in New York City and then your boss said, you know what, you don't have to come into work anymore, you can work from home, and you got to choose anywhere in the country that you wanted to live, yeah, you'd go somewhere really affordable and someplace that doesn't have high taxes like Florida, like Texas. I mean, it makes sense.
I would, if I was to move anywhere, I'd move to like around Greenville, South Carolina, or Asheville, North Carolina, because they have like, I know totally off the subject, but it's beautiful out there. Yeah. They are saying demand for rental isn't high in DC at all. So many empty luxury high-rise begging people to rent, offering 3 months for free. Wow. And another part of the market that, it's kind of like they say it, but it's almost in a passing, is commercial real estate. How many offices are going to stay open after this? Because a lot of people found out, wow, we could really do our job from home. And some offices are really genuinely looking at it because it didn't change. Nothing changed for them as far as productivity of their employees. So they're really considering, a lot of companies are considering, more and more people are going to be working from home.
Yeah, that's
going to affect single housing marketing too, single family housing as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm seeing as well. A lot more of my buyers are saying, hey, we need to have an office in my house. We only have a 3-bedroom house right now. We need a 4-bedroom house with an office in it. And, my brokerage that I work with, I used to pay them $500 a month for an office at my brokerage that I could go to every day. When this whole thing started, I was like, you know what? I'm canceling that. I'm saving that $500 and I just work out of my home office now. And I like it. I don't think I ever want to go back to paying $500 to have a little office space, a little cubicle in some other building. So you're absolutely right that a lot of these commercial buildings, they're going to be hurting in their very near future. And it sucks if anybody bought a brand new commercial place in 2019, because you're going to have a high vacancy rate, all 2020, probably moving forward in the next few years.
I've seen more and more, like, it's sad, but I'm seeing more and more buildings that are clearing out. And I went to the local mall recently, and it's like ghost town, which the malls were already dying ahead of time. But that is a group of people. Like, how many kids in high school started their first job at the mall? What job are they going to do now? Because, like, a lot of them used to work at restaurants. A lot of restaurants are closing. It's just, we're going to see a huge shift. And I don't think we're thinking about all the effects that it can have, the domino effect of all these things that are heading down our pipeline that will affect housing. And there's no way about it.
Like, people say that we're going to go back to normal once this vaccine is in place, but it's not true. Like, we're not going to go back to what we were in 2019. It's going to have a permanent scar on our economy that it's never going to recover from. Like you said, the malls and the movie theaters, a lot of them are never going to recover.
Gail Alvey said, I could easily live in a 400 to 600 square foot and still have a great kitchen and bathroom. Yeah. And a lot of, these, the tiny homes, one of the ones I've featured a couple times on my channel is a boxable home. They're not in production yet because of the building, they had a building freeze because of the pandemic and all sorts of other things, but they will be in production soon. And they are just right over 500 square feet, almost 600 square feet. And it has everything you would need. It's bigger than some apartments in New York City. And I would live in that easily.
Yeah.
Those boxable homes, I could live in that without a problem. The
And
storage space is the thing that would probably, you wouldn't find a place to put a Christmas tree. So I think that you would, if you had one of those little houses, you would have to have either a separate storage space so you could have, your Christmas tree and your decorations and that kind of stuff. And, who knows, hide your sweaters in the wintertime, or, rent a unit somewhere or whatever, an outside unit.
the trick to living in a small house is you have to get really organized with everything. You can't be disorganized and have boxes of junk. You have to be very organized with that. But the frustrating thing is that the new home builders, they're not building 500, 600 square foot homes or really nice kitchens. There's definitely a market for that. But like you said, they're just not incentivized to do that. The money's not there. We really need the government to step in and incentivize them to make these much more affordable homes for people.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of affordable homes, Hell Kitty Ninja says, "Hey, a few people who create manufactured homes, do you know if they will start making more ornate designs like Victorian styles?" So, going back to the house that I was just talking about, the boxable houses. So it's a basic house. Like on the outside, it's just literally gray walls, and you can add anything you want on the outside. You could even add brick if you wanted to. It's just basically a shell of a house. You could leave it the way it is because the way the structure is created. You could leave it plain, or you can add brick and gingerbread and all sorts of stuff. And I know that on the inside of manufactured homes, they have on the outside, you can use hardy board. You don't have to use vinyl. You can do all sorts of different kinds of things that you couldn't do in years past. On the inside, they have real stone fireplaces. They have granite countertops. You can even get crown moldings. I mean, it's not like what you think of in your head when people say, oh, you bought a mobile home. It's not a mobile home. It's a manufactured home. It's two totally different things. So yes, I agree. I think you can do. Yes. You're just going to have a hard time finding them because every state has different laws when it comes to manufactured homes, like how far they can travel. They have different laws about hooking them up. So you're going to have to find a manufactured home area or that works in that specific state that has something that you would need. So you're going to have to do a lot of calling and doing a lot of internet searching and talking to people before you settle on one. Do you see any other questions in there that you want to
Let's see.
Let's see what this one is. Why not convert these malls and commercial properties into affordable places to live, condos, to give people a sense of pride and ownership? 1,000% agree with you. 1,000%. There is a place, I believe, in Seattle, Washington, that they took an old mall that wasn't working, and they turned it into a over 65 community for people.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so they took the whole mall and then they partitioned it off with these little things, and then it gives the place for the elderly to be able to walk, safely throughout the mall. They could just walk through there. And the only problem is that because it's been a few years, they had a problem with pets coming out to go walk, and they would go to the bathroom on the tile on the side. So they've had some hiccups. So they've made puppy pads inside the mall. So but you have to clean it up, and they have the little plastic bags to pick up the poo-poo. But
something you know a lot about, huh?
Yes. So I think that's a fantastic idea. I wish more people would come up with that concept. Strip malls too. I mean, I don't know how many strip malls that you see that are just dying strip malls. Why couldn't you just take those strip malls? I know they're zoned commercial. So why don't you just take them in and make them into condos? I mean,
yeah, I think that's definitely something that they should consider. Because a lot of these malls are going to go out of business. I mean, there's already so many of them that we're struggling. And I mean, I think the states or the city should buy them and repurpose them, into homeless shelters or some kind of community centers or indoor playgrounds, something. Yeah, a lot of them are probably going to shut their doors for good after 2020.
Indoor playgrounds would be great for Louisiana. We rain so much.
Right.
We're gonna have to get the current situation under hand before we start letting kids play indoors together. But
Right.
yeah, this is an interesting question. I have no mortgage. Need to sell my house, and due to my age, probably could sell for about 270,000. How much of that should I put down
Put
for
down.
my new place? That depends on how much of the new house you're going to purchase.
Yeah,
Right?
that is a really good question. I'll say that interest rates are so low right now. They have never, ever, ever been this low. And if you wanted to invest that money somewhere else, so let's say you get a 2.5% interest rate. If you could just invest that money somewhere else, you get a better return on your money. So, for example, if you invested in just the S&P 500, right, into the stock market, on average, over the last 10 years, you'll see about a 9% increase in your money every single year. And so it makes much more sense to invest that money and get 9% on it rather than paying that money on your mortgage to avoid a 2.5% interest rate on it. And there's just a lot of other places that you can invest that money. You could take that money and buy another rental property with it. So I would figure out for yourself what type of monthly mortgage payment you feel comfortable with and only put that much down and then stick the rest in your 401k where it's probably going to appreciate more in value. The Federal Reserve, right? You've seen that they keep just printing money, and that's largely to keep the stock market going and keep those prices artificially inflated. And I honestly believe that they're going to keep doing that to artificially inflate the stock market for a long time. So I don't really see a big stock market crash coming, as once it does, I think that the Fed's going to step in and Congress is going to step in to protect that stock market. They're much more worried about protecting the stock market than they are the housing market, unfortunately.
That's because Congress is bought and sold by big businesses. And what do they care about? Big corporations. And the rest of us can go pound sand.
That's a big part of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. That's a big part of it.
Yeah. He says, I'm not sure how sustainable home prices will rise in 2021. That's why I say it's going to go flat. Jay, that's what I believe. I don't know what kind of construction that you're in, but I'd love to get your input about it. You can email me. I've actually just, email me after this is over with. And I'd love to talk to you if you're in home construction, what you're seeing on your end, since I'm not in that particular field. I just sell the houses. I'd like to know what you're seeing on your end. My email information is in the description of this video. So shoot me an email. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Malcolm, hold on.
Uh-oh.
He said, terrible advice, Malcolm. Interest rates mean nothing if the purchase price is up 100. Is that 101 or
100% maybe?
100%.
100%. Yeah. Interest rates still mean some. I mean, I get what you're saying. If interest rates drop, then and home prices increase, your monthly payment could balance out to still be the same. But 2.5% interest is like nothing. That's so little. I don't know how that's bad advice. You can put, let's say, $100,000 down to avoid 2.5% interest, or you can take that $100,000 and invest in the stock market and get 9% return on that money. Like, you are definitely making much more money on your investments by investing it in the stock market than you are paying down your mortgage. But it's all up to you and how much risk you feel comfortable with, especially if you're moving towards retirement. Maybe your goal is simply to not have any debt whatsoever. I think when you're a little bit earlier in your life, it may make more sense to kind of invest that money, try to get the best return you can. Once you get further on in your lifespan, though, and you are looking towards retirement, then maybe your goals are to just get completely out of debt. And maybe that's what you want to do, is not have any debt. And we don't know what your other financial situation is, if that $270,000 is all that you have, or if you have another $270,000 in your savings account or something. Like, we don't know all that information.
Correct. Was a friend of mine, longtime subscriber to the channel. He says Section 8 work is on the rise here, Kristina. Section 8 too, if you're a landlord, is something to definitely consider. You're guaranteed to get that money. I know a lot of people will poo-poo on the idea of being a Section 8 landlord, but honestly, it can work out in your benefit. You just, you got to do it right, and they screen the people. Things happen to your property. A lot of times the government will give you back. They'll kick them out themselves. You don't even have to deal with any of that nonsense. So it is something to look into. Don't like poo-poo on it because it's Section 8. It is the way to get guaranteed income coming into a property.
Yeah,
So
I agree with that. A lot of investors like Section 8 investing. I think you have to get your house inspected by them. It has to meet some minimum requirements, but then you're getting paid directly from the state. So you don't have to chase down your tenants to get that money from you. What's interesting is Maryland just passed a law that landlords are no longer allowed to discriminate against source of income, which means we used to say, hey, we are not accepting Section 8 tenants. We're not allowed to say that anymore. Now, we can still decline Section 8 tenants. We just can't say it's because you're Section 8. So it's...
Well, now, does it have to be so many properties? Like, in order to be considered a landlord, you have to have X amount of properties in order to be governed under certain laws.
Oh.
Like, since we only have X amount, we only have, I think it's less than 7, that we're not considered like a full-on landlord tenant. Like, it's almost like a personal property we're renting, but we fall under the housing guidelines once we have more than 7 properties. Is that the case in Maryland?
I don't believe so. I think it's across the board, because we had this rule. It's the fair housing laws, right? And a state can enforce stricter fair housing laws, but they can't enforce less strict than what the federal is. And for a long time, we had a couple of counties that said in these counties, you can't discriminate against source of income. And now Maryland's adopting that across statewide, that you can't discriminate against source of income.
He's active in our chant. Am the man. First-time home buyers with very little down should absolutely not be buying. I think the prices are overinflated for first-time home buyers. I'm not gonna lie. But so as the interest rates are extremely low as well. It's kind of like it's gambling. That's what it is right now for a first-time home buyer. It's nearly impossible. I don't know if you'd seen at the beginning of the live stream here. I pointed out the fact that the average American makes $68,000 a year, but the average cost for a first-time home buying in the United States is $228,000. If they have no more than, let's just say, $900 in regular debt of home, like insurances and car payments and all that stuff, they only can afford a $117,000 house. So those first-time home buyers are out anyway.
Right.
So yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, a lot of the first-time home buyers are the ones that need the seller closing cost assistance. And typically how we do that is, let's say you're asking for $10,000 from the seller to pay all your closing costs. We typically offer them $10,000 above, so it's kind of cancels each other out. But those types of offers are just not getting accepted right now, because we still have to worry about the appraisal. So if you have to offer above list price plus another 10,000 to get that 10,000 back to cover your closing costs, now the seller has to worry about if the house is going to appraise or not. And that's just making things a lot more complicated as well. So a lot of buyers, first-time home buyers, are having to pay their whole closing costs, which means they don't have as much for a down payment, which means they can't afford as much. The first-time home buyers are the ones that are really getting screwed right now. The people who are selling their house at the top of a market and then buying at the top of a market, they're fine. They have enough money to put as a down payment. As people just
I've noticed that those higher end homes though are coming down in price.
Oh, really?
Higher end.
In your area? Yeah. Okay. So here I think it is for like $2 million homes and $1 million homes. They're really hurting right now.
Oh. I mean, deep in Baton Rouge, but I'm talking in my specific area. Houses that are in the like $500,000, $600,000 range, they're coming down quite a bit. But some of the sellers got extremely greedy during this time, and that has been reflected, and they're having their own little coming to Jesus in the economy meeting right now, and they're having to come down on their price. So to wrap this all up, I want to know who's to blame for the housing market right now. Is it a Congress? Is it the virus? Is it the appraisers? Is it the real estate agents? Who do you think is to blame right now? And what can we do
Oh,
to fix it?
man, you're putting me on the spot here, huh? All right. So it is partially the politicians. It's crazy that we've gone 6 months without another stimulus check. I don't know how they expect people to live 6 months with no income whatsoever. And it's making that wealth gap in our country bigger and bigger and bigger by the day. And it's also the virus. The virus, a big part of this is that a lot of sellers are too scared to put their homes on the market right now and have a bunch of complete strangers walk into their homes right now. I don't blame them from that, but how Congress and the Senate, responded with the stimulus checks is going to go down in history as one of the biggest blunders that we've ever seen. And that's
And it doesn't even matter what side of the aisle you lean on. Honest to God, both sides have been like, it's like you can't say one side has been worse than the other because they've been equally as terrible. We end up fighting over the dumbest stuff, and I'm like, just give people a check. Who cares about the rest of the stuff? Just give people a check, and they can't even do that. They
yeah.
can't. They can't even make it a one-page bill where they just give everybody a check. They just can't do it. It's like impossible.
And I feel like if they did that, then we'd have less people forced to go out and have to work, and the virus wouldn't have been as bad. Did I freeze up again?
No, you're good. I see you
Oh,
perfectly fine.
oh, my computer froze again. Okay, I can hear you though.
We can see you perfectly.
We'll roll with it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you were saying you stopped yourself from talking.
Oh, I was on a rant there. Yeah, if they would have passed maybe a monthly stimulus check or a weekly stimulus check, more people wouldn't have had to go into these higher risk jobs and been forced to expose themselves. And we probably would have had this virus much lower numbers than we do right now with the virus. So their inability to do anything has probably exasperated the virus much more than it had to have been.
I just feel so bad for people that are making less than $100,000 a year. Those families are the ones that are most affected. And if we can come up with a plan, even if it's us as people can come up with a plan to help these people get back to work as soon as they can and be able to make a paycheck so they don't fall into foreclosures and, or become homeless with their families, I think we'll be much better off.
Yeah.
I wish I had the answers. If somebody has the miracle cure for that, please email me. I don't know what I'll do with that information. Maybe I'll have you on as a guest. Malcolm, I want to say thank you so much for having this conversation. I know it got kind of heated in the comment section. Some people didn't agree with our advice, but at least we're having the conversation. Anyway, it didn't matter if you agreed with us or not. It was good to have an open conversation, and I'm willing to do them every week, every Sunday, 3:30 on Sunday on Central Time. We do this, and sometimes I have Malcolm on and a bunch of other real estate agents, and sometimes me and the real estate agents don't agree. We get in a little fight there. If you haven't yet, make sure that you hit the thumbs up button, that you like the stream. It does help me out. And if you're interested, I do have a membership, and you can join the membership. And I have a Discord that we can talk all things real estate. There's some people that were wanting to talk about real estate and Bitcoin. I know that's something that you have on your channel, Malcolm. And if you haven't yet on Malcolm's channel, go ahead and give him a subscribe. He talks all things financial, and you can have many conversations with him on there, especially even about Bitcoin. You have your insight on that as well.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, everybody. I hope you had a fantastic Sunday, and I look forward